Alright, now this is the no-toe, and that's the front of it. It looks like it's a shoe. I mean, it's wrapped around. You see wherever you see these cuts? That's where there was skin. Skin was bled through. Like that, if you look at your foot, you have the exact same thing. Now, I showed you the bone over there, and that's where the bone was, right here. And the bone leaked out here, and there's a little black blood here. It runs the red and the black blood. But this is where it leaks out, and that's where the toes are. The toes are in here, but you can't see them. There's a flap of skin, and then the toes are under. They're stuck into the meat of the foot, and then they have this big bulbous thing on the back. You see, and then, of course the fibia falls off. So that's what these look like. Now, I walked out in the back yesterday. Oop. Taking my dog Rambo for a walk, and I found another no-toe out there in the back. This one here. Let me come back a little bit. It's still a little bit wet on the bottom, but you see that same skin. And now this is all covered with skin. It's a little bit bigger, and that's how they wrap up in the front again, like the other one. You see that little? This is almost like some kind of leathery look, which it was at one time, leathery. Now, when you see these mineral inclusions in things, that's the way the body is built for structure. And this is a little different than I normally see, but I'm not sure exactly how this thing ended up flat like this. I find that a lot of them are just laying flat like this as they petrify. Because they're wet, and they just lay flat. And I have a ton of them that are flat, and almost all of them are flat. I know that, and I was wondering, why are they so flat? And they like this one here. This is a bone. This was a leg or something. You see how flat that is? Flat as a pancake. Now you take it apart, and if I put some water on there, you'll be able to see that was there was a bone or something inside there. And it was it just flattened out. It'd be very hard to see that now, but that's why. And now they call these things ultramafic rocks, like these flat ones. They think they were down at the surface of the earth or something. No, they were all over from the Great Flood. They were just flat. Well, here's a better shot. See the end there? I hope you can see that discoloration. See the red? You see what's going on there? That's the dead center of the bone or whatever it was in there. And that's the circumference of it. And then the rest is fleshy stuff that sort of gushes out to the sides. And it was compressed somehow for some reason. I don't know what, but I can tell you that is the central core of a bone. And the rest just settled on top of that. And once it's set up and solid, of course the bones transition like everything else. But like this is a DNA certified human lung. You see how flat it is? This side is flat as a pancake. And they're all like that. Well, not all of them, but damn near all of them. Well, even like this goose. See a goose? That's a goose. And that's his feathers on the top. If you can see the different feather patterns here. I don't know if that'll show up. It's a goose. Now, it was laying here on this side of its head. The neck, of course, was down here and came off this way and snapped off. But you see how flat that is? They're all flat like that, and that's because of the flood. So that's something you can look for. Now, you may not see it every time, but you see it a lot, I can tell you that. Now, the other thing you want to look for is that skin. Now, this is an egg. This is some kind of egg. And they also split. Now, why did they split? The reason they split is they became soaked in the flood. And then when they dry out, they just sort of leak and split and do those sort of things. And then they harden up. Well, this one here is like a dinosaur egg that just got flattened out flat. You know, when I say dinosaur egg, these were Tweety birds. These were little tiny Tweety birds back then. You know, we think they were dinosaurs. They were the Tweety birds to the giants that were out there. And you can see that Same thing here, like on that lung. That is the pattern of the lobes of the lung. It has this pattern on this is what's called a pleura, and it coats all the lungs and the tissues of the body. What else? I guess that's about it. But everything is coated with a fabric, fascia, slime, mucous membranes. That's what separates them out, even when they're dead. Even when you're dead, you know. And in this condition, I mean, mostly people will decompose. I mean, that's just life or death. But in the saltwater conditions, and then, you know, soaking for a very, very long time, waterlogged, that takes all of the organics out of the tissues. And what you end up with is a waterlogged mass. And it lays flat and gets solid as a pancake and dries out. Simple as that. Everybody asks me about the CAT scans, and this I don't have them anymore because I've changed to Linux, and the software doesn't work with the you know, I need new software, let me put it that way. But I did have some that I showed in this video. This goes back 4 or 5 years. It was on my old channel, which no longer, well, it's still there, but I abandoned it. Here goes. That came out of a lung. So don't tell me I can't get blood out of a rock. And these are the arteries and the veins were right in. That was CAT scan. That's another finger. This was CAT scan. We're going to look at that one in a minute, or maybe you already have. Now that's that bloody rock. Look at this. Wait a minute. I got to show you that rock because that. Hold on. Now, when I first got that rock, it was even better, bloodier looking than that. You couldn't tell it between a piece of meat. Now, you see this little flap right here? You see that? That's what they call a fascial tongue. It invests this chunk into something else. This is fascia. That's the stuff you got to cut off your meat. This is all marbling of the meat, and you could see the black tendons, the elastins in it. I still have it here. Hold on. All right, you saw how perfect this piece of meat is. You see these little black fibrils up here? Let me see if I can find them. See them right there? See them running across? That are the elastins. Those are the elastins. This is just a piece of meat. It was, you know, it's all dried out now. It's been sitting here for 5 years or more, 6, 7, 8 years or so. Anyway, that's that piece of meat right there. That's earlier when it wasn't quite so browned out. They will turn brown. It's just like any meat. You leave it out on the counter, it turns brown. When I first had it, you couldn't tell the difference between that and meat. No way in the world you could tell. And I showed it to a guy that is a butcher. And he said, that's a piece of meat. He said, that is a piece of meat. I said, yes, it is. That's that piece of meat in life. They make these little tongues that invest this chunk down here into this, and then the whole thing straps into your body. It's called a myofascial system now. When I first started in this, they weren't even looking at this hardly. The only people who were looking at was the Germans, who I contacted to talk to about fascia, because fascia is what separates everything in your body when you petrify. If you petrified in a manner of a mud fossil, the fascia will separate every single part in the body exactly what it did when you were alive. That's why you see that tongue, and you see the tendon fibrils are always, lungs are just laying there in lungs, the hearts are just laying there in hearts. They're not pieces of hearts, they're hearts, they're lungs, because they're isolated in your body by those membranes. And that I've been talking about because I believe that membrane leakage is the cause for all illnesses, basically all chronic diseases. You have 4 layers of membranes that isolate everything in your body from everything else, and if those membranes fail, those mucous membranes fail, and they become dried out or dehydrated, they become porous, they become abraded, they become stretched and ripped for any single reason, and they cannot repair themselves. Eventually that will eat through those layers until it gets to your vital skin, and then you got an issue. You're going to grow all kinds of tumors and all kinds of cysts, and everything is going to show up there. And this is exactly what they got. And I had a doctor tell me the other day, he says, you're right. He says, I've been thinking about this for a long time. He says, you're right. He says, he works in this surgery or something. Had another couple doctors. A friend of mine, his wife is having some issues, and he was at the doctor and talking to him. And they're sitting outside. I guess they were smoking. And he showed them the rocks that were laying on the ground. The doctor went insane. The next day, they came out and had the surgeons out there looking at the rocks. So I don't know. This was only today. I just heard about this today. So maybe they'll contact me. But he said they were very interested, and he gave them the the website and the YouTube channel, all that. Anyway, this is something we need to look at as a community, as a world. I've been looking at this. I'm pretty happy. I know what I'm talking about. I understand it intimately. And I'm going to write a book on it because I'm going to have to, because nobody else has taken the time to even think about it as a serious endeavor that I can find. Brian Forrester did, and nobody's even discussed it with him. I saw him on a video yesterday. He said, yeah, it's been, I guess, I don't know how long, it was a year or so he did it. I don't know, but it's nobody's paid any attention to it. So, and it's not even paying attention to me. My thing goes back to 2015, so that's 4 years ago. I had my DNA test done. Before that, I had CAT scans. I had all the chemistry worked out. I had recreated the process. I had everything done. So, and they kept saying no. I said, well, DNA, no. I said, CAT scans. Then I got the DNA. Still no. They still don't say no. They still don't want to see it. Same thing with Brian Forrester. He did excellent work. He knows where all of these long-headed skulls came from and their ancestry, where they are, the haploid groups and all these business they talk about, all these different sequenced areas in the DNA emanate from some area in the world. As the concentrations were there, and that's where they left from. And he's done all that work. Nobody seems to care. They just soon tell you that they are out there using their copper chisels. Yeah, just all dragging around rocks. Very, very disheartening to a person that really wants truth. Now, really, this is the only, I had a bunch of stuff. Let me see what I show here. I'm going to turn this sound down and let it play here and see what happens. But this is, that's a thumb. It's actually this thumb right here. And that's the back of the thumb. This is the little thing that rises up right behind your thumb here. And that's where the nail bed was. Let's see what I do. I don't want to drag this thing out too long. Alright, that's the apical tuft that I keep talking about. That's that little thing I showed you that'll be on the end. This is another shot. Look at how nice that was. That's the nail bed right there. That's the nail bed right there. These angles down here are where tendons attach on the sides, and then on the end where the apical tuft is. And that lets you articulate your finger in every different direction. Let's see what else. And that's the bottom where the pads are underneath the bottom. And there, you can feel them on your own thumb. If you feel around, you'll feel there's places where it's got, that's the apical tuft right on the end. What else we got here? Alright, we're going to look at that stuff. This was cross sections and moving the thing up and down and looking at all of the blood vessels inside. And you can see, when it's not going to be able to see it on this camera. And this is like 3 different videos down. But you can see the bones in there, the soft bone, the hard bone, the lacuna. All right, anyway, Jesse Garant did those CAT scans. Best scanning in the entire world. I'm going to show you. All right, this is Jesse's company. They do huge equipment, car engines, race car engines, all kinds of stuff, and they can tell any kind of problems in there. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And they did 7 CAT scans for me, no charge. And I'm telling you, these things are not cheap. And these people do not work for free. And that equipment is expensive as hell. So I thank you, Jesse, and I was never more impressed with anybody in my life, my friend. Thank you.